Last week, we talked about how to start trail running the right way with structured training and a long-term approach. But before you can put in the miles, you need the right gear, and that starts with your shoes. The wrong pair can lead to discomfort, injuries, or even make you hate the sport, while the right ones can make every step feel effortless. With so many options out there, choosing the perfect trail running shoe can feel overwhelming. Today, we're breaking it down so you can hit the trails with confidence. My guest today is Jono Rumbelow, a run biomechanics specialist at the Run Specialist store in Cape Town and a coach who has spent years helping runners find their perfect fit. Combining science and real-world experience, Jono helps runners run safely and comfortably on the trails. In this episode, Jono and I will dive into how to choose the right trail shoes for any terrain and foot type, the biggest mistake runners make when buying shoes, when to replace your shoes and signs that are worn out, and the difference between road and trail shoes and why it matters. Jono.
Dean.
Welcome to the Trail Chasers.
Thank you very much.
I feel like I've been wanting to have this discussion for about a year now. So
I'm sure it's longer considering how long we've known each other.
Yeah. So it's really good to have you on. How are you feeling?
No, a little bit nervous. Haven't done one of these little chats in like yonks, but appreciate the invite.
So this season is sponsored by Gilnockie Socks. We obviously had to talk about shoes, but I guess socks are as important, or maybe we can have that discussion as well.
True.
So this is the pair of socks that they've got for us. But what I'm going to do is I'm not going to put you on the spot now. But at the end of the episode, I want you to give me 2 words that you would have on the back of your socks.
Okay.
Let's kind of start. With yourself personally. Obviously you're working in the shoe industry. What have been the kind of 5 or 4 most pivotal kind of moments in your life that have led you to where you are today?
Dean, I've got to go all the way back to when I wrote matric. And now I'm going to give my age away to everyone. And that was way back in 1984. I was working part-time, selling running shoes at a shop called King's Sports in Durban. Unfortunately, that shop is no longer. And they're being taught, about running shoes there. So that was the first thing. And obviously, I was a very keen runner at the time, running for Natal schools on the track. And then the second pivotal moment, going to World Duathlon Champs in Calais in 2000, ripping both of my calves.
Sure.
Not being able, and arriving at those championships, having run 34-minute 10Ks. And at the time, that was a pretty fast time.
Yeah.
Now 34 minutes is average.
Yeah.
And then being wheeled onto the ferry, in a wheelchair because I couldn't walk.
Sure.
Getting back to South Africa and 6 months of investigations with physios, podiatrists, etc., not getting anywhere, and then making the bold decision, which was the third pivotal moment, of moving overseas to go and study.
Sure.
Which leads into the fourth one. While I was studying and working part-time on a contract that I was very fortunate to have secured with the gym chain David Lloyd, I was approached by 2 guys who had just started a company called ProFeet, and the next thing I was offered a job. Sure. And then started my training with them in the lower limb biomechanics world. Loads of time in France, at a company called Citus Conformab. Learning from RScan, the pressure pad guys out of Belgium. And what I thought was, I'll go there and study for 3 years and come back to South Africa. Ended up, staying for 9.5 years and only came back because of the financial crisis, back end of 2008, beginning of 2009.
Yeah.
So I think, had I not got injured, I don't think I would have followed the path that I did. And I've got so passionate about, running and wanting to help, runners per se. Yeah. And anyone who walks through, the doors, at Run, I regard them as an athlete.
Yeah.
It's not okay, I'm a beginner or I'm a walker.
Yeah.
You're an athlete, you're exercising. let's help you the best that we can.
And I'm sure you do have a business card, or maybe you don't. But if you have a business card, what would it say under your name?
I don't, I know these guys will go and put their degrees and this, that, and the next thing. And while I've got all the certificates, I actually, unless I'm asked, I don't talk about it. I would end up saying it would be, a phrase. I'm here to help you.
Yeah, love that.
And that would be apt in what I do and how I approach it, and indeed, how we approach things, in the shop. Put it that way.
So this season is all about kind of the beginner's guide to trail running. We are going to try and take people through that kind of process. And obviously, a very important discussion is the shoe discussion.
True.
I think it's obviously something that people probably get wrong a lot, get a lot of misguided advice on. And I think I've said it, before to my guests that these episodes are not meant to be like a comprehensive guide, but more just to get people kind of thinking in the different directions. So very grateful to have you on. Each episode is kind of split. We're going to do a couple of questions about shoes, and then we're going to have a bit of a break for a bit of a lighter question. So, you work at the run store. When someone steps into the store and says, "Can you help me?" What is that process? What does that process kind of look like?
It's very simple. One, who are you? So, it would be a case of, hi, Dean, who are you? What is your running history or your sporting history? Those sort of prior sports will have a direct impact on what you're doing right now. Secondly, what's your injury history?
Yeah.
A lot of people forget that little falls here, little tweaks there have a direct impact, especially if that fall or tweak or injury happened sort of either before the first and second developmental phase or in between those two developmental phases as a young kid. And obviously those different ages there. And then last but not least, find out, what's your goal? And I think that's where the biggest mistake is made in helping runners, is they don't find out who is that person, what are they about, what are they trying to achieve, because everyone's got different goals, be it I want to finish UTCT 100 versus I've never run before, but I'd like to run the Spa Ladies 10K. And so, yes, while there are different approaches that some guys will use, at the end of the day, they're all the same. Yeah. So you approach it that sort of way. And then once you've got that info, then double check ankle motions and functionalities. It's a little biomechanical test that I like to do. Then go and put them on a video, and then go and explain them, or explain to that person, what is the video about? What are the little movements about? When you see this, oh, that's that. When you see, this, that's that. So when they walk out of there, they don't necessarily walk out just with a shoe. For example, let's take the shoe that you've got on your foot, the New Balance Hero. It's not just about, oh, Dean, there's your shoe. It's a case of, right, Dean, I want you to work on, a little bit of functional strength. So I want you to go and research this. I want you to go and work a little bit on your mobility, or I want you to go and work on a little bit of flexibility. So we'll actually give people a lot more advice than what they bargained on receiving, so that it becomes a big picture. As in, how do I become a more efficient runner, rather than, is the running shoe just going to help me? No, not really. And it can be a 40-minute process. So guys, need to understand, if you're coming to us, be ready for that. Length of time.
When you look at people that walk into the store, what is the level? Is it a lot of people that have never run before coming in, to get their first pair of shoes, or is it more people that have made the mistakes and are now coming, to correct them?
It sort of ebbs and flows through those various sort of, groups, Dean. What we've seen lately, or post-COVID, beginners. Everyone all of a sudden discovered the mountain.
Yeah.
Trail runners were getting upset because it was like rush hour traffic. And they couldn't do their proper running training, on the mountain, and they were getting upset, and it was actually quite funny to listen to. It then went into Camino, and people, going overseas and walking Camino. And I'm talking about, a client that I had on Monday. She's 28, gave up her high-powered job in New York. She's going to go and walk the 36-day Camino.
Sure.
To the 60-year-old who, dare I say, wants to go and find themselves again, versus the beginners. And the last but not least, I think the biggest thing at the moment is the running communities.
Yeah.
And that has exploded, certainly in Cape Town, because obviously, and I don't know about the other cities, Durban, Joburg, Pretoria. But if you go and look at the different running communities at the moment, those groups have exploded.
Yeah.
I'll take community track.
Yeah.
Wow. To see 300 people pitch up at an athletics track to go and run. That's never been heard of before.
Yeah.
So it's great to see. I would say at the moment, it's just a variety, and it ebbs and flows as the year goes by based on what's happening and the weather, and so on. So there's no real right answer, I would say.
And the split between road and trail at the moment?
It's fallen backwards. At one stage of the game, it was sort of 55 road, 45 trail. That's gone back to the sort of 2/3, 1/3. But I think that's primarily driven by road running having come back to its full potential post-COVID. And I also think the cost involved, unfortunately. Don't get me wrong. I'm fully aware of, the costs involved in events because of my involvement, with triathlon. So, but, I go and look at it from there. It's easy to pitch up and pay 100 Rand for a road race.
Yeah.
We don't really have too many trail races in South Africa. That's $100.
Yeah.
That type of thing. So I think it's been driven by that, a cost thing, and more, I would say over the last sort of 10 to 12 months, you can see people are very, price conscious.
Yeah. Let's kind of start the discussion with the shoe buying process. What are the kind of first things that a runner should look for when it comes to buying a pair of shoes for the first time? And maybe conversely, what shouldn't they be looking for?
It's both, a hard and an easy question to answer. My biggest experience is a lot of runners are, I'd like to say, brand bullied. But it's more to do with what South Africa was used to in the apartheid era.
Yeah.
And what brands were freely available during that era. And so the older runner, and I go and place myself in that category because I am, they only really know, the two brands that were readily available at the time.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is that people need to realize that different brands have different shapes. I use this analogy in the store. If you went jean shopping and you pulled out, say, a 34, in a straight cut, for want of a better description, in, say, a Levi or a Diesel or a Wrangler or whatever brand it was that you've gone and pulled, those jeans are going to fit you differently based on their cut for that particular brand. Yeah. Running shoes are exactly the same. And so people come in with this preconceived idea of, I have to have an Asics, or I have to have a Saucony, or my uncle said, I have to have a stability shoe. Things have moved on so much in the last 5 years, let alone the last 50 years with regards to running shoes, that the information is not given to the runner.
Yeah.
And that's what we're priding ourselves on at the moment, is educating the runner as to, no, your foot is a certain shape. Certain brands are not going to fit you.
Yeah.
And it's not because they're bad brands. It's because the shaping just doesn't fit you. It would be like, a wide person or someone who's got a wide foot trying to put their foot into a really narrow brand.
Yeah.
As in, they're trying to run a trail race in a pair of skinny jeans. Their mates would most probably pay good money to see that happen, but it's going to be painful.
Yeah.
And that's, about the shops educating the runner. And unfortunately, and I may be shot for this, going forward, I just feel that a lot of the help that's out there for runners, or a lot of the shops that, sell running shoes, don't go and give that information to the runner. And it's been around, in terms of width settings and that type of stuff, it's been around for like 25, 30 years, Dean. And I still to this day, I still see people come in, I've been told to get this brand. And they've been chosen, they've been given a brand that is as narrow as anything, and they've got a super wide foot. And I'm thinking, no, not happening.
Yeah.
So misinformation, that's what the runners need to be careful about. And I think last but not least, podcasts, and shoe reviews. Don't get me wrong. I think podcasts, shoe reviews, and getting information out into the public domain, absolutely fantastic. There are a lot of guys who don't go and put disclaimers on their podcasts or their shoe reviews of, if you're a wide foot, this shoe's not going to be, or if you're this type of runner, this shoe's not going to be good for you, blah, 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 that type of thing. And those podcasts influence a lot of runners to say, oh, that shoe, that had a great review, I must go and buy it. Yeah. But they forget there's other parameters that are involved.
The question that stems from that for me is why, on both parts of that, in terms of the retailers giving that incorrect information, and then also why in terms of the brands, if you say like all of this information is out there, why do brands only accommodate certain styles? Is it kind of just a cost implication, or, why? Because you would, as you were saying with the jeans thing, you'll get a Levi's skinny, you'll get a Levi's, so why are brands not accommodating every type?
Dean, I think it's very easy, and you mentioned it right now. It's a cost thing. There are some brands that do have what they call their standard fit and their wide fit. Asics have it. New Balance is, the one that comes to mind, I would say internationally being more renowned for it, as in having different widths, fittings. But it does come down to, costs. If you could do, 3 different widths in a model, just think about how much money that would be. And that's, the big thing from that point of view. In terms of, giving that information to the runner, I just call it laziness by the employees and the employer. It is something that you can teach, but it's also something that you can't teach. When my guys, start with me, I have a certain, process, and I go, and that process allows them to learn based on their own experience. For me to go and train someone on every single solitary shoe, it's going to take ages. And secondly, I'm looking at shoes, in March and April of this year that will be coming out next year, January, February. So I'm sort of, looking in a crystal ball, when we go to these, what we call buy-ins or some call sell-ins, looking at what's coming out, what's super new and what's going to be fancy, and trying all of these things on. So yes, I get that opportunity, but it's nice to put it when the final product does come in, to put it on my foot. And that way I can say, right, my perfect shoe for me is X. how does this compare to X?
Yeah.
You know, be it road, be it trail, you know, be it, you know, a running pack, for example, you know, that type of thing. So it's about getting involved because the brands do, you know, there is training for the guys.
You would mention, you know, like shoes that, you know, new models come out. Do they kind of stick more or less with, you know, if it's say a wide shoe one year, it'll be a wide shoe the next year, or it's this type of foot style, or do they kind of change that up completely?
No. So the brands will try and keep it as close as possible.
Okay.
Yes, to a certain degree, if there is a change in the material on the upper, it might fit or feel as if the fit is narrower than the previous model.
Yeah.
But if you go and measured the inside of the shoe and you measured the length of the shoe, invariably those are pretty much, you know, exactly the same. It's just the way that the shoe's been put together that it'll feel narrower or it might feel smaller. Having said that, though, it is common knowledge that some brands have come up half a size smaller than, or a model in a brand has come up half a size smaller than the previous year. To be honest with you, it's not a biggie.
Yeah.
But there, it's a case of, do you understand, you know, do you have that knowledge and say, right, so, oh, you were size 5 in that, we're putting in a size 5.5. And, you know, and people will say, oh, no, that's too big. And then you end up explaining to them and show them physically, you know, why.
Yeah.
And then they'll understand.
Yeah. Yeah, I find that a lot of brands now are using I don't know how you would refer to it, but like the tongue, you know, where it's attached.
Yes.
And having a very wide foot and a very like thick foot, you know, I find that new invention is quite, I've had to cut out a few tongues of
it is, you know, and it is pity, you know. Yes, you can go and very carefully slice it, and of course then you're, you know, when you do that, you're voiding the warranty claim or, you know, on the shoe. But they have learnt, you know, in some of those. And I think that was brought in because of the tongue keeps sliding and the guys don't like using that sort of little loop at the top of the tongue to thread the laces through because they just felt claustrophobic or whatever the case may be. So, the brands do, you know, they have learned from that first experience where it feels like a sock.
Yeah, exactly.
Compression sock,
And, you know, we can say like, how does foot shape and running style impact, you know, but let's take it back. What is foot shape? What is running style? You know, when we kind of mention those terms. Okay.
Let's start off with running style because that's the easiest to explain. In my world, as in lower limb biomechanics, the way that I could video 1,000 people, they'll all run differently.
Sure.
That difference is basically down to 3 things. 1, the functionality of the muscles. And I'm talking about from sort of the belly button down, shall we say. How effective, you know, and efficient are those muscles. 2, the flexibility of those muscles. And then last but not least, the actual mobility of hips, knees, you know, or ankle.
Yeah.
Over and above that, you can't forget sporting history and injury history. So running gait, you know, it changes, you know, in the first 3, you know, points that I mentioned will go and change the way that you run. So you can't really force it. It's going to be natural.
Yeah.
You know, it's for you. Foot shape. That's just your DNA.
Yeah.
You know, is your arch a little bit lower than normal? This idea of you're a flat foot. It is a term that is very loosely and incorrectly used. Flat foot means that there is no arch and your whole foot is in complete contact with the floor.
Yeah.
You could see that on a pressure pad, or you could do the old rudimentary test where wet the foot, put it on a piece of paper, and hey, presto. As soon as you see a little bit of a curve, well, you're not flat-footed.
Yeah.
I think the misconception there is that if your arch is low or if your ankle is rolled in a little bit more than what it should in the medically accepted, norms, that is deemed as being a flat foot.
Yeah.
So, yes, you might have someone who's got a low arch, which looks wide, but because of the nature, the sort of the shape and size of their foot, they might be shallow. So they're not physically wide.
Yeah.
As opposed to someone who's really chunky. Yes, you get some guys who are really wide where you've got to organize a 4E shoe. And geez, we're talking, super wide here.
Yeah.
But, wide is relative to what you learn, on the course that I did. And also, any anatomy and physiology 101, for med students, for physios, for bios, they will, go and deem, that's what you're taught.
Yeah.
And you're basically taught it's either, low, medium, or high arch. You're either neutral, pronated, or supinated, as in pronating being rolled in, supinated being rolled out, and, X, Y, and Z. But a lot of that information is not explained properly. So, like I pronate. Well, great. You're supposed to.
Yeah.
It's, how bad do you pronate?
Yeah.
And why is there a pronation? That's what's not explained.
Yeah.
So you'll, once again, my guys, I will go and teach them. Look at your foot. What are you? Understand which shoe fits you. What is the shaping of that shoe like? Now, when you're looking at the customer in front of you, how does their foot compare to yours? Is it wider than yours? Is it shallower than yours? Is it chunkier than yours? Do they stand more pronated than you? And they start getting gaining an understanding of, before we've even done the video, right, along the wall that I've got there with all those shoes, which one's already going to start? They're already starting to think of the process of that one, that one, that one, that one, and once they've seen the video, they might change it, but it might just be a change of a shoe within a brand.
Yeah.
The brands might be the same. And they're already starting to think of shaping, not biomechanical function.
And, you say that everyone's kind of different, running style, foot style, all of that. So how do the brands then, I suppose, how do the medical, and I suppose that's probably why they kind of standardize it.
Yeah.
So how do the brands then factor that in, that everyone's kind of different? Or is everyone within a spectrum?
I think if you go back to, traditionally, and when I say traditionally, I'm talking about, running shoe brands that have been around, Saucony, 1898, Brooks, 1911. And then you get your others like Adidas, which, so on and so on and so on. But let's go sort of from the 1950s. Shoes have been made sort of with what the foot looks like. Let's take the new kids on the block. And specifically, I'm going to talk about Hoka, and I'm also going to talk about Ultra. There are two brands who have gone and looked at foot function and the actual biomechanical processes of the actual body. And they've gone and designed shoes around those principles. And I think that's one of the reasons why those two brands have been so successful. And it's actually forced, in my personal opinion, the other brands to actually change. When Hoka first came on the scene internationally, I would say they were the ones who started this war, and I put war in inverted commas, with thicker shoes and high stacks and what have you. And all of the brands sort of rushed to have a shoe that would, go directly against, that particular model, of Hoka. Or, the different levels, of models within, the brand itself. And you've actually seen how a lot of the brands have backed off and they're doing their own thing. So yes, the approach has become a lot more scientific. Salomon, tried it, using a gent who I regard as one of the most revered podiatrists, podiatry, brains and biomechanics experts in the world, a gent by the name of Simon Bartold, who I've had the pleasure of being in lectures, or where he's lectured. And Salomon asked him to consult for a while, and he did. And you saw a drastic change in the way that they designed their shoes. The two guys that started Hoka, they've been in the industry for ages, approached it from a medical point of view.
Yeah.
The two guys that started Ultra, two medical doctors out of Salt Lake City in the US, approached it from a medical point of view.
Yeah.
And so you've seen that change across all of the brands, not necessarily using podiatrists and doctors, but being approached, right, what is the body doing?
Yeah.
How do we counteract that?
Yeah.
And so the shift is great because the runner is actually benefiting from science for the first time in a very long time.
Yeah. Are we getting to a point where you'll be able to kind of customize your shoes based exactly on your foot?
Adidas tried it. As in you could have a shoe, 3D printed right there and then. On are trying it at the moment. They've got a shoe that can be, I don't think it's not 3D printed, it's actually spray knitted or whatever the process is. And if I remember correctly, it's actually a 4-minute process that they can actually, get the shoe, done and dusted. So can it be done? Technology's out there. Is it, viable? Well, unless you're a millionaire, the answer is, no. One's just got to have a look at, the top Adidas shoe. Where at last year's, Cape Town Marathon Expo, I think they were selling them for 12 grand or something like that. Yeah. And they sold, I think, 7 or 8 pairs of them.
Yeah. And you can only wear them for one marathon.
How many people can afford that money? You say 3.5 to them. Yeah. They're already going, ooh.
Yeah.
12 grand. So yes, we are already at that age where you can have something customized. Only the rich can afford it.
Yeah.
And I think it'll end up dying very quickly. If not, I don't think Adidas have continued. I must admit I haven't kept up to date with what they were doing on that particular shoe. But I know on their new spray-on, design shoe, that's only just started. And it appeared at the Olympic Games last year. In fact, it actually was worn by the lady who came second in the triathlon.
Sure.
She wore that shoe. But it's out of reach for everyone.
You're speaking about kind of the running styles and the foot, obviously your foot shape, I assume, doesn't change, or does it?
Well, it depends on who you talk to, Dean. Let's start off with the men. Yes and no, based on body weight.
Yeah.
Okay. But invariably, I'll take my foot. I don't think my foot's changed. Since high school.
Yeah.
So I don't think really. In ladies, I'm looking at you straight away and saying, really sorry. It does change. It is very well known in the industry that there has been a change in both foot shape and foot size post-pregnancy.
Sure.
In fact, there's even evidence to show that foot shape and size can change in a second, possibly a third pregnancy.
Wow.
Especially if the second pregnancy involved twins.
Sure.
And yet, I find it really fascinating that in none of the pregnancy notes that are given to any lady around the world has that information there.
Sure.
So you will find ladies who will come in and say, yeah, no, I'm a size 5.5. And you put them in a Brannick device to measure their foot and to both length and width. And you actually say, sorry, you're actually now, 6. I'm going to have to put you in a 6.5.
Yeah.
And they sort of look at you as if you've just sworn at them. Or alternatively, they want to slap you. And I think that's the other thing, is that this whole misconception of I was a size 9 when I was 15 or a size 4 when I was a 15-year-old. I'm still that. No, you are still growing, because that 15 to 17 in ladies and 16 to 18 in men was the second developmental phase of your body.
Yeah.
So yes, there are going to be changes. So yes, your foot shape length is going to change, and, and ladies, once again, looking at you, sorry, hips are going to change as well, that type of stuff. So I still get it. I'm 5.5. No, ma'am, you're actually a 6.5.
Yeah.
And so it does happen.
Yeah.
But that's just one of those things.
Yeah.
You just you adapt and you get used to the fact that you now are in a shoe that fits you better. You can wiggle your toes around as if you're playing the piano, and playing Bach's Third Symphony, in D minor, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I don't think that exists, but anyway, so that you've got something that fits you nicely.
Yeah. And running style?
No, don't change it. It's natural. If I said to you, Dean, you run funny, I want you to try and land like this. I'm now forcing you to do something that's not natural.
Yeah.
During a normal run. It's different if you were with me at a track session where the 15 or 20 people that are in front of me, I'm doing drills with. And I'm doing a specific drills training session to try and make you run more upright. Not necessarily land different, but try and change your technique so that you can become more efficient.
Yeah.
If the best thing I can say in terms of telling runners that won't affect their running technique negatively is stand tall.
Yeah.
But please don't pick yourself up from your shoulders. That is the worst thing that you could ever do. Find your belly button. Okay, and pick your hips up from your belly button.
Yeah.
Okay. I've often said to people when I look at them at track, some, prominent runners, both top level, provincial guys, from junior level all the way up to masters. And I at one session, I actually shouted at a guy who is number one, in South Africa in his particular event as a master. And I remember shouting at him and swearing at him and saying to him, can you please, stop looking as if you're sitting on the toilet?
Yeah.
And everyone at the track sort of turned around and looked at me as if to say, what in the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
And I kept on shouting at him until eventually he got it right. He ended up running 4.5 seconds quicker on his 1500 by a simple little thing.
It's just incredible. And, obviously it's a trail running podcast. So, besides from the obvious, the look, what are the key kind of differences between road and trail shoes?
There's only really two things. One, the upper, it's a little bit more robust.
Yeah.
And two, the outer sole. It's designed for trail. What a lot of people don't realize is that trail shoes, the cushioning from trail shoes, was actually derived from road. Some shoes actually, and once again, I'm going to allude to the shoe that you're wearing. That sort of cushioning, you'll find the exact same density and what have you, and foam or, cushioning system in a road, brother or sister, for want of a better description. Trail is hard, especially in South Africa. We did a blind study, in Bree Street. And the questions were very simple. How long have you had your running shoes for? What's your, your average weekly mileage? And, what are you doing? Are you running races? You're just running, for the sake of running, that type of thing. And we actually worked out, and we did this blind study, by the way, for over 18 months.
Sure.
So it was random. Everyone who walked through the door, it was trail. And we actually worked out that runners were getting about 1/3 less usage out of a trail shoe in the South African conditions than what our European and American counterparts were. And it was primarily driven on two factors. One, the harshness of our terrain. And two, the fact that our routes are not maintained, on a regular basis.
Yeah.
You take a European to Jonkershoek. They're blown away by the scenery and the beauty, and they're, we're going to go and run it again. No, it's too hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yes, our shoes don't last. Yeah. And that's the other thing that runners need to accept the fact that their shoes are going to run through a little bit quicker, on trail, versus road. I think the other thing that I'd like to mention on that, we've actually started moving away from how many kilometers can I get out of a shoe. Think of it this way. If you and I went running together every day, all right, and we had a third person or a fourth person join us, and number 3 was a little bit slower than you and I, and number 4 was even slower still, all right, but we've run exactly the same distance. At the end of the day, runner number 4 would have spent a hell of a lot more time in their shoe, which means the impact on the shoe is greater than you and I, being the more efficient, perfect runners that we are.
Yeah. I'm the slow one at the back.
So this idea of, should I get 800K or 600K out of a pair of shoes doesn't really work.
Yeah.
Because your 600K is 60 hours. My 600K might be 50 hours. Someone else, it might be only 30 hours.
Yeah.
But the fact that you've put, a hell of a lot more time and impact on the shoe, that impact has a direct result of how long your shoe will last for. So you might find that you're changing at 600, I'm changing at 700. The more efficient guys most probably changing at 900.
Sure.
But we've all run the same distance.
Yeah.
And I think we need to start thinking along those terms, because none of the brands in the last, I'd say 5 or 6 years, barring Normal, and that's because Kylian Jornet has gone and openly said your shoe should last, X based on his own personal testing.
Yeah.
None of the brands have said your shoes will last for.
Yeah.
Those days are long gone.
And so then how do you kind of determine, other than bringing it to you and saying, are these done,
I think you as the runner will start feeling. So you might have, a fairly cushioned trail shoe. The next thing you go for a run and you're just in Newlands Forest, you're trying to take a nice easy jog, and you're feeling every little bump, pebble, stone, unevenness, on the surface, and you're just running on the, the road section in Newlands, not even off the beaten track.
Yeah. Secondly,
if you turn a shoe over, have a look at the wear and tear on the bottom. Look at the lugs. Have they gone? Initially, most of the lugs on most of the shoes are sort of what we call 5 mil thick, or stick out by 5 mil. Some are 7. So you'll quite easily see if the lugs are missing. Last but not least, actually try and bend the shoe in half. And what I mean by that, and I'm just going to grab a shoe here from the side. So what you end up doing is you turn the shoe over, and I want you to go and grab it like that, guys. And I want you to try and bend the shoe in half this way. And if you can bend the shoe in half like that, then your shoe is dead, as in it's not going to be responsive anymore.
Yeah.
I've got a brand spanking new shoe. There's no cushioning or, piece of paper like the guys put it in, when you get it out of the box. But I'm trying to bend that.
Yeah.
There's no way. That's what a brand new shoe is like. If you can go and bend the thing in half, I know you passed your sell-by date a long time ago.
Yeah.
Now you're starting to realize that the cushioning is gone, the responsiveness is gone, the stability of that shoe is gone. So when I felt a little wobbly on trail. Oh, yeah. Have a look at your shoe.
So going back to that, there's so many debates around shoes at the moment. So, and I think one of the big ones is obviously the cushioning versus minimalism. So what are we talking about? What is that? What is the importance? Is it a marketing scam?
No, it's not a marketing scam.
Okay.
We'll start there. And I think the book Born to Run, opened up people's minds, to running, how they should approach it, and the likes. And then we had all the different forms of running. To be honest with you, I've forgotten about most of them. The one I'd always remember, because this guy tried to convince me that he was the best thing since sliced bread. It was something called chi running. And in all fairness, I looked at this thing and said, nah, it's not happening.
Yeah.
What it did do, though, is it actually empowered the runner to actually start thinking for themselves. And I think that's the positive, out of this thing. Did the minimalist craze last for a hell of a long time? Not really. I remember back in 2004, maybe 2005, Brooks released what they called a white paper. And it was on, the whole concept of barefoot running or minimalist running. And the white paper basically said that, in essence, the injury rate of the runner had increased because mostly runners were too hasty in trying to go straight from that, 0 to hero scenario. That was the first thing. Secondly, their own biomechanics. And thirdly, that their bodies had got so conditioned to the cushioning of the shoe that they were running in that their bodies just didn't respond.
Yeah.
And that's a different thing. Bodies will go and respond differently to the different cushioning systems that the brands have within their range.
Yeah.
So yes, it sort of died a slow death. And while Vivo, entered the market and there are a lot more people walking naturally, with those shoes, and Ultra obviously did exactly the same thing, as in a squarer toe box, a more relaxed fit, fit or a wider fit, shall we say, but where the height of the heel and the toe was pretty much zero, as in you're walking, barefoot. There are loads of people who've had the benefits from using that. There's some who can't. I'll actually use myself as an example. Had what we call a railing fracture of my right leg playing rugby when I wasn't supposed to. And to this day, cannot run in a shoe lower than a 6 mil drop.
Yeah.
And just to clarify what a 6 mil drop is, for your viewers, that's my heel is 6 millimeters higher than my toes.
Okay.
So almost view it as a high heel shoe, shall we say. So yes, I can't, go lower. Also, the wider fit, so the Vivos, the Ultras, of the world, too wide for me. So I end up sliding around and going all over the place with those. So I think, is barefoot, or was the minimalist craze, great? It was. Did it have problems? Yes. But then, every phase that we've gone to has shown, problems have occurred or appeared, shall we say. I mean, let's take the carbon-plated era. There are studies that show that continued use of carbon-plated shoes or, incorrect use of carbon-plated shoes has a negative impact on some runners. But I think the positive was it got the runner to start thinking and make, dare I say, an informed choice about can I run minimalist or do I need cushioning?
Yeah.
Do I need a low drop or do I need a high drop? Do I need, a thin shoe or do I need a thick shoe? Which we in the industry call stack.
Yeah.
So it had its merits.
Yeah.
But it's not for everyone.
Yeah. So there's no right or wrong way. It's just it's as we've discussed, the running styles and
No right and wrong. I mean, at the end of the day, you've got to, or we'll guide a person into a shoe that we think is going to be best suited, A, their foot shape, B, their natural, biomechanics, and C, their running style. It may not be a minimalist shoe because of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. But
then that's us going, a lot deeper into the scenario.
Yeah.
As in, and I'll use a single, quick example. Someone who's got an ankle that moves around a hell of a lot more than normal. We call it hypermobile foot.
Yeah.
should they be running in a really thick shoe? Oh, hell no. That's like them running on a platform.
Yeah.
They'll be even more unstable.
Mm.
So the closer to the ground they are, not necessarily in a minimalist shoe, but the closer they are to the ground, the more stable they will be.
You know, when people come in, not from beginner, but come in, you know, like having made mistakes. So what is the most common thing? Is it incorrect fit? Is it, you know, what are you kind of seeing as a kind of problem?
Wow. I think the big thing is guys that have been told they pronate, but they haven't been told what the cause is. So pronation is the symptom, and the cause has never been addressed.
Okay.
And they placed into a shoe, and when you go and look at it on the video, and you go and say, look at this, and then you go and show them, you know, do a barefoot video, and you go and say, this is what your body does, and you explain it. You know, I just think that, you know, small little wobbles, and this is where I have a bit of a bugbear, you know, gripe of guys doing video analysis. They don't really understand, you know, motion. And so I think the biggest thing is the misinterpretation of what your body is doing and what your foot is doing. And so that has led to an incorrect shoe, you know, on the foot. If I remember correctly, 4 years ago, a study was redone on people in shoes and injuries and what have you. They determined that 65% of people running were in their incorrect shoe.
Sure.
As a direct result, 85% of that group had an injury as, you know, a direct result. And the joke of it is that I remember those stats when I first moved to London and I started working at Profeet. And that was at the beginning of 2003. The stats were pretty much, you know, that.
Yeah.
And I'm still gobsmacked that that's still there.
Jeez.
You know, 20 years on.
Yeah.
It's really scary.
Before we move on to the kind of the different types of shoes, I want to get on to, I don't know if you do a lot of trail running, but when you get to a river, you know, are you running straight through or are you taking your shoes off and going through and putting them back on?
So, full disclosure, people, I run trail, but I run around Lion's Head and what have you. I stupidly, and I say this, accepted an invite by ASICS a good couple of years ago and went to go and run Bastille Day.
Okay.
And thought because I was fit, I would go straight into a 15K.
Yeah.
Started, kicked a rock, fell, landed on my knee, you know, got straight up because I didn't want to feel embarrassed by people, you know, running behind me and some of the other bigger running store chains or sports chains that were with us at the time. And I ran through. So no, I'm by no means, you know, a trail runner, shall we say. Rivers. Having run cross country and, you know, just approach it. Man, I've seen guys try and run straight through.
Yeah.
It's not like mountain biking.
Yeah.
You ride through and you hope for the best. But then the rivers that you're crossing, you know, in mountain biking are not these big bouldery, you know, sort of things, admittedly. I have been one of those, right, let's respect water, you know, and the force of water. Let's understand that the rocks are going to be slippery. And I'll gently get across there and I'll make sure I get, you know, without slipping on the other side. I've fallen once where I've literally gone chest high into the water and I've just thought, thankfully I don't have my cell phone with me.
Yeah.
All good.
Yeah.
You know, we'll keep it there. No, I would say, guys, just take it easy.
Yeah.
You know, don't be a hero. Get across because you don't, especially if it's, you know, where the water's rushing, you don't know if there's a small little hole in there. Next thing you get your ankle stuck in there, then what?
Yeah.
You know, because you sort of argy-barged and you thought, I'm big, I'm brave, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. I did that at the Kirstenbosch night run recently where I went straight through and there was a hole and it just went, and luckily they got it on camera, like video, photo. So it was.
Love to see that, that shot.
All right. Should we get into types of shoes?
Yes.
I mean, yeah. How long do we have?
Because however long you need.
Yeah. So I mean, how do you kind of go through it? How do you, what is the kind of parameters, the framework?
Dean, I think if you look at the industry, they have sort of kept the, shall we say, the different categories pretty much the same. They haven't really changed. The only big change is the introduction of plated shoes.
Yeah.
And obviously there's different types of plated shoes, and we'll chat about that just now. And then the other big change is that category that was called stability or overpronation shoes or corrective shoes, whichever description you would like to use. And how that's changed to be more of a holistic nature.
Okay.
And I think that change is as a direct result of science and as a direct result of understanding the body a hell of a lot better than what we used to in the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. And the 90s, to be honest with you. In fact, you look at, and I say that, you look at gym training in the 90s versus gym training now. It's a huge difference, that type of thing. So I'm going to start off, let's start off with carbon plated shoes. And I'm just going to pull 3 out for you.
Yeah.
Right. So hopefully you guys on the camera can see what I've got here. Oops.
Is that a trail?
No. So these are a road, but and there are trail variations of this. So, and I'll talk about trail, guys, because as I said earlier, your trail shoes are basically derived off here. And I thought, let's have a look at it. Full on racing, which by the way, there is carbon plated shoes for trail. Should there be a carbon plated shoe on trail? What the people were thinking. Once again, personal, sort of chirp here. I don't think. You're not getting the full benefit of a carbon plated shoe that you would on road.
Yeah.
So you get your all singing, all dancing, super lightweight. Then you get your slightly dumbed down version, possibly still a full carbon plate as what you get on the racing, with a much firmer or a heavier cushioning system, or what we call midsole. You get a variation of this shoe, which is basically a nylon plated. And then you get the good old entry-level plastic-plated shoe. It's pretty much the same firmness, in terms of cushioning from there. And varying in prices, up to silly money, that type of thing. Yes. Salomon brought out a shoe called the Pulsar, which was basically a piece of a plastic, shall we say, underneath the actual forefoot and extending all the way down to around about sort of halfway down the arch. Yeah. A lot of guys liked it. A lot of guys just felt a little bit too hard, especially if they stepped on a really sharp stone and that pushed that plastic, really heavily, into the shoe. But this sort of category for road, great. For trail, I don't think, it should be here. Yeah. So let's go and look at, what trail shoes, are.
So what is, a carbon plate? What is it? What is it meant to do?
Dean, it depends on the shaping and the positioning of the plate. Theoretically, it was designed to help with propulsion. Yeah. So depending on which cushioning system you were using, and the different brands, have their own, different cushioning. For example, Adidas has something called Dream. Okay. This is called what they call NZ, not energy, NZ. Cushioning. This depends on which shoe you're talking in terms of ASICs. So each brand, they have gone and blended a mixture of the 3 different foams, shall we say. be it what we call PIBA, which is a really high responsive, very light, energy returns foam. TPU, which is also, very responsive but cushioned. And then the good old EVA, which has been around for donkey's years, which is more, about, just bog standard cushioning, support, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And yes, they've gone and played around with blends and added. For example, some of the models have now started adding nitrogen, to the mix to now get a lighter, dare I say, fluffier midsole, which it bounces a lot better.
Yeah.
It feels, lighter, and you feel a lot more springier. And so you look at, shoes, from in terms of beginner, and this is the same for trail, by the way. All right. You can go from a beginner type thing, going into a little bit firmer, going into something that's a little bit more bouncier, and what the industry, I think, incorrectly has said a high mileage shoe. The guys will think, I'm doing comrades, I need a high mileage shoe. Not necessarily. You might actually need a firmer cushioned shoe and get the same sort of respect from there.
Trail running beats up everything, your legs, your lungs, and especially your feet. The last thing you need is socks that give up before you do. That's why I'm thrilled to announce that this season of Trail Chasers is sponsored by Gilnockie Socks. These aren't just your run-of-the-mill socks. Gilnockie socks are made for people who demand more. More performance, more durability, and more comfort. They're designed to prevent blisters with premium moisture-wicking materials that keep your feet dry no matter how long or muddy the trail gets. Plus, they're treated with HydroCool and Silver Plus, so they stay fresh, breathable, and ready for your next adventure. Since I started using Gilnockie socks, I haven't had to stop mid-run to adjust or worry about discomfort. They just keep working mile after mile, run after run. So why settle for socks that don't keep up? Visit gilnockie.com and use the code TRAILCHASERS at checkout for 20% off your first order. Trust me, once you try them, you won't go back. Your feet will thank you. Okay, what's next on the menu?
So the next is the stability category.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, first things first. This category in itself, I think, has sort of died a slow death, primarily because of the major changes.
Yeah.
Secondly, there is no such category in trail. But I wanted to bring these out, to show, your viewers what the new style of stability is like and how they've actually brought it into trail to a certain degree.
Yeah.
So different levels of stability based on the actual correctiveness, which is as was at the time. But what the guys have gone and done is they've used different densities when injecting their mix, or blend, of their foams into the actual shoe itself. So, be it an entry-level type of stability shoe, the GT1000 by ASICS, which is this one over here, going into the guide, which this is now version 18 of the shoe, and a really, very much wider shoe, as you can see there, but a lot stiffer purely because of how much they've gone and injected into the mold versus your more traditional stability shoe, which is the good old New Balance 860, where this was the sort of corrective block, shall we say, of old, but yes, playing around with a bit of a plastic plate, which is this section that you see running through here between the two foams, with a softer, fresh foam, which is the foam that you've got in your shoe, going into, something harder.
Yeah.
I mention these because this has gone and linked into trail shoes per se, and how they've gone and put all three of the categories of shoes that I've, brought out, as in carbon plated, shall we say, for want of a better description, into the normal day-to-day running into stability through here. And we'll bring out your lightweight, going into high cushioned, going into a firmer, shoe, and then going into something, a lot stiffer. So the Shirach by Normal, really lightweight racing shoe, as durable as anything. One of our colleagues, Julian Dean Brown, is an actual ambassador for Normal in South Africa. He's actually put 860 Ks on these things, and the lugs still look absolutely fantastic.
Wow.
So like I was saying a little bit earlier, Kylian Jornet has gone and put literally his life on the line, in talking about the durability of his shoes. So there's your lightweight racer. Similar to your racing flats, before the introduction of carbon-plated shoes, which there is still that category as in a racing shoe without plates and lightweight and super, responsive. Then you get into, your good old chunky high cushioned, which is your high mileage shoe, shall we say. So this would be like, dare I even compare it to, say, a Nimbus, the new Nimbus 27, which has just come out. New Balance's 1080, Saucony's Triumph 22, the Wavesky 8, which I, had out just now. Those type of high mileage, soft cushion shoes. That's the new Ultra Glide 3 that launched not so long ago by Salomon. And what you'll actually see, funnily enough, is, yes, while it looks really high along both the inside and the outside of the heel, that's your heel actually sitting inside the shoe. So basically, if that was my ankle or my heel, that's basically how my fingers are wrapping around, and hopefully you can see there in the camera. That's what the shoe is actually doing, is it's actually wrapping around to give you a little bit of natural stability and cushioning. What's really interesting is Salomon, and hopefully the camera will see this, and I'll show that to you there. Look at the little dimples on the bottom.
Oh, wow.
So this is something that's completely different. And the thinking is that the shoe will go and form around the little rocks and stones, as you go and run, theoretically creating a more stable surface, as in, here's the rock, the shoe forms around it. Okay, we're stable. We're not going anywhere.
What's the research? Was it too new still?
Too new to actually go and say, does it work or not? Then you get your firmer, which was your standard sort of, pretty firm, shoe. This just happens to be, the Peregrine. And yes, a good old, low drop, low stack shoe that I think, most runners should be able to get in. And I'm talking about the actual firmness of the shoe, not necessarily the drop on this thing. But yeah, that's, the Peregrine 15 that came out not too long ago with some really great grip on the bottom. And then you get the Cascadia 18. Now, this thing is as stiff as anything. It's pretty much the same same stiffness as that Guide 18 that I showed you by Saucony just now. But that is where they've gone and used the different densities to go and create the natural sort of support structure, shall we say, of a foot inside the shoe. Also got some great grip on the bottom. And some of these guys use their own grip. So, for example, yes, while that's Vibram, Saucony have gone and used their own. Salomon, are using their own at the moment. Brooks are using their own. But a lot of companies have moved over to Vibram, not necessarily on all their shoes, but Vibram as an outer sole is internationally renowned. You don't really get better.
Yeah.
And you do get different grips, and you can ask, to have something personalized. I have no doubt that the grip that you on the bottom of your Heroes was something that was personalized, in conjunction with, Vibram by New Balance. But the category of trail, everything that I've shown you here has been lumped literally into these 4 different levels, for want of a better description.
Yeah. So
racing, super soft, standard, pretty firm, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, do you get, super soft in all of the different widths? Yes, you can. Can you get super firm in the different widths? Ish, yes. Can you get standard in the different widths, or as in the different brands? Answer is yes. But the racing, not really. And it's a pity because there were a couple of shoes that I feel were discontinued, should never have been discontinued. There was one model of shoe, and I'd prefer not to name it, where the shoe was stopped, as in production was stopped on the shoe, and at the time that the shoe was stopped, it was their best-selling model internationally.
Sure.
And they stopped the shoe.
Why?
And it was like, why? No one knew.
Jeez.
So the approach to trail running and shoe fitment will still be based on muscle, goals, injuries, general functionality, sporting history, functionality of your ankle, shaping of your foot, but not necessarily what I see on the videos. And that's because of the nature of running.
Yeah.
Road running, straight linear line, for minutes, hours on end.
Yeah.
Trail running, you and I both know, you can go and run 15K on trail. It's going to take you, a hell of a lot longer than 15K on the road. But then it's run, walk a little bit, clamber up some rocks, climb up, get to the top, take a breather, then start running again. When you start running down the hill, it's very gently. It's not that, open the tanks and just let your legs take you down, or gravity take you down the hill. So it's a different scenario. So yes, while I can still see and maybe want to video you based on injury history, because of the nature of trail running versus road running, that's where the difference is in approach. But everything else prior to that, exactly the same.
Yeah.
So yes, this is a really exciting, industry. And these shoes over here are exciting, but, trail runners have just got to be careful. Don't stick with a brand. Unfortunately, I always hear it. They'll come in, I've been told to get a particular brand. And once again, I'd prefer not to name the brand because I don't want to, it's not me dissing them or, being disrespectful. It's more a case of the brand is great, but it's not designed for everyone.
Yeah.
You did ask the question, earlier about simple mistakes that people make. Brand awareness, is the biggest thing, especially in trail running. Yeah. Because they think that particular brand is the be all and end all to trail, I'm afraid. Yeah. So there's basically, sort of, shoe history 101 in 5 minutes, I suppose.
And, how important is terrain, to shoe choice versus, your foot type and things like that?
Dean, to answer you honestly, I don't know. Yes, if you take long runnable terrains or a long runnable course, you might find that the guys will go and choose a high mileage, trail running shoe. Yeah. But those are the guys in the know that have been around, since trail running, started. Yeah. I think the other thing is those are the guys who can actually afford, 2, maybe 3 pairs of shoes. Yeah. And the cost of shoes, unfortunately, has gone through the roof. I remember the conversation that we had when the guy saying, this shoe is now going to retail for 2,800 Rand. And I remember us sitting around the table and going, oh, that's a bit expensive. Now, you've got trail running shoes that are 4,300 and more expensive, as well, above that. And, you're sort of thinking the average South African, can't afford running shoes, the great stuff. Yeah. So they'll they'll go to the Mr. Prices and, Mr. Price Sport, and they'll go and buy something that's more affordable, for their pocket. Hey, I can't fault them. I really can't. But, they'll make mistakes.
And, when it comes to kind of the waterproof element, the breathability, factors like that, are most trail shoes pretty standard, or is it a factor that you kind of need to consider?
All right. So breathability is literally, what is the material like on the upper? How breathable is it? Okay. If you felt sort of the mesh, on this Brooks Cascadia, for example, and I'll just pass that over to you so you can feel that, versus how light that is over there, it's subjective to the shoe that, that you are purchasing or wanting to purchase. Let's talk about waterproof. So there is a Gore-Tex category, shall we say, in shoes. Does Gore-Tex work in South Africa? Well, not really. What people forget, though, is that, so the Gore-Tex layer is primarily to stop water getting in. What happens if you walk through a river?
Yeah.
How do you get the water out?
Yeah.
So now it traps the water inside. Now you're walking around with a sloshy shoe, and then there's, guys will get irritated.
Yeah.
Drainage on trail shoes is really, really good. You go and add, a really good sock to the mix.
Yeah.
That drains well. Literally, you'll go through a river, 5, 10, 15 minutes at a push maybe. Your foot will be fairly dry.
Yeah.
Because that water has gone and drained, because that mix of the sock stroke shoe stroke whatever it was, has done what it says on the box to, type thing.
Is that pretty standard across most trail shoes?
It is. It is. Yeah. Yes, some are better than others.
Yeah. But
once
based on
again,
your ankle, you wouldn't change a brand just for that reason alone.
Definitely not, because now you start, putting, your running, life, shall we say, in danger of possibly getting an injury.
Yeah.
So, and the last thing, please don't choose a shoe on color.
Yeah. I mean, that's also probably a big mistake. And we've chatted a lot about lugs. So what are lugs? What do they do? What are they meant to do? Like, do you get a shoe with a longer, like, can you get the same shoe, but with different types of lugs? Is it? Okay. So the lugs are basically those little nodules that you see on the bottom of the shoe there, guys. And hopefully you can see it, from the camera. Obviously this being the Salomon shoe and that being Saucony's, and both of them their own sort of design. They will talk about, two-way lugs. So if you have a look at the Saucony here, where the arrow is sort of, pointing up towards the sky here, as opposed to this one pointing down. So when they talk about, two-way lugs, that's basically what they end up talking about. Is one better than the other? I think it's subjective. I've heard, of guys where they've said, I've slipped and slide, all the way down the mountain, and I couldn't get a grip on the rock, and they've got a Vibram outer sole. As opposed to someone who's got a maxi track, which you'll find, on some of the shoes, and it's on specific brands, no hassles, whatsoever. Which is really funny. Asics's trail shoes, their outer soles on all three of their shoes at the moment. All four of their shoes at the moment. It's pretty much exactly the same outer sole unit. Sure. And it's done really, really well. The other thing that you'll actually find is you'll have what they call different tiers. So the lug will start wider and like a building, a little bit narrow on the top, to sort of give it, different levels of grip over there. Is one better than the other? Well, your running style is going to change that. Yeah. It's subjective. Yeah. And the same thing with, the feel on the foot of a shoe. What you might think is perfect for you might not necessarily be right for me. Yeah. And so you've got to ask yourself when you're testing the shoe out, as in,
We make our guys run up and down the road. It looks absolutely hilarious. You get these people running in jeans and they're running up and down in shoes. And sometimes, it's 2 different colored shoes.
Yeah.
On 2 different brands.
Yeah.
And our security guys have got, in the building have got used to it now. And we all have a laugh about it. But you will soon know, based on 3 simple questions, which is the better shoe for you that we ask.
Yeah.
And, so that's why, your body, best source of information ever.
Yeah.
To you, the runner.
Yeah. What are the 3 questions?
1, which one makes your ankle feel the most stable? So when you land, your foot's not going anywhere. 2, which one's the most comfortable? 3, which one's the most natural on your foot? And when I also talk about natural, I talk about the actual fit of the shoe on your foot.
Yeah.
As in, does it hug your foot? Or does it feel as if it's squashy? As in it's about to squash the, the air supply out, of your body? Or do you feel lost? As in your foot is sliding around, as if you've got, and I use this again, a pair of jeans that's 3 sizes bigger than what you're supposed to wear.
Yeah.
You can tighten the belt up, as in tighten the laces up to hold the thing on your foot, but you've got no stability, or there's no natural stability of your foot inside the shoe. Those are the easiest 3 questions that you, the runner, can answer, because that allows you to tell me, Jono, feel good in this, didn't feel great in that, loved the fit of that. Cool. Can we get a combination of the 3?
Yeah.
And if I've pulled out shoes that I thought were right, but your feedback says something different, I'm going to take those away and I'm going to move to the right. That didn't work. Based on that, where do I go to? Cool. Have I got other options?
Yeah.
Let's go to those secondary options.
Yeah.
Until we get to, that's the shoe.
Yeah.
You'll know straight away.
And it's like a Goldilocks thing. It feels just right.
Oh, and that sort of, glass slipper. It's slid in the foot and hey, presto, we're in business. Yeah.
And rock plates?
So this is something that started and is still in shoes to a certain degree. If you looked really closely in the bottom of the Peregrine, and I can't really show to you guys right now, but yes, you will see that there's a little bit of what they call a rock plate. The brands have asked not to refer to it as a plate, primarily because they talk about carbon plates, in road shoes. So it's more a case of a rock protective layer. Yes, in your thinner stacked or, shoes. So for example, the Peregrine that I've got in my hands, is that still there? The answer is yes. Do you find it, in that Ultra Glide 3? No, because the cushioning is actually enough, for it not to have to be there.
Yeah.
So I think the general, rule of thumb at the moment is for the brands is right. What's the how much cushioning is there underneath the toe? Do I need it? Do I not need it? For example, once again, I'm coming back to the shoe that you're wearing. Does it have one? The answer is no. Because the cushioning is thick enough.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the brands have gone. What's the cushioning like? Nah, I don't need it. Yes, I do need it.
When you talk about sizing, and I suppose maybe talk, a bit about kind of comparative. If someone comes in, they've never run trail, do you kind of start with what road shoes they run in, or do you kind of start fresh?
I have, because to make the process easier.
Yeah.
You might end up saying, Jono, I've been running trail or road, should I say, for years and years. Cool, Dean, what have you been running in?
Yeah.
Oh, I've been running, in the Asics Cumulus, 24s. I love them. Are you injury free? Yes, cool. Straight away, it says to me, right, the firmness of the shoe, what style of shoe, the fit around your foot, hey presto. I will then, to make your life easier, especially from a time point of view, our lives have become really rushed. So if I can save you some time, I'm going to end up saying to you, right, Dean, you've got 2 choices. The characteristics of these trail shoes match the Cumulus that you're running in currently right now. Okay. So it makes your life a lot easier. I might bring out a third option for you to say, if you want something slightly different, this is where you go. But what I don't want to do is take you from, the Cumulus, which is a fairly firm shoe, into something that's really, soft and squishy and bouncy. because your body might not react to that. And just for the for the people watching, I haven't picked up this shoe. I'm just using it as an example. Okay, that type of stuff. So yes, that process can be a little bit quicker from that. If you said, I'm running in the Kumas, but I'm getting injuries, then we're going to start, right, let's understand, when did you get the injuries? How long? Does it start straight away? Does it only come afterwards? Blah, 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 blah. And based on a series of questions, I'm going to end up saying, cool. I'm either going to say, all right, we're going to choose this, or no, I need to get you on the treadmill and understand from there. But invariably, if a guy has said, I run this on road, I'm injury-free, I can go and find something, on trail. At the same time, if a trail runner comes, I need to start doing some road because I need to do extra mileage for UTCT. I'm doing the 100 miler. I normally end up saying to them, did you lose a bet? But no, I'll end up saying to them, what is your trail shoe? Cool. Let's try and keep the characteristics the same, as in the thickness of the shoe, the drop of the shoe. I might go a little bit higher with the drop of road because of the extra pressure that it goes and puts on the ankles, the calves, the knees, the hips, etc. So you might say, I'm in a 4 mil drop. Cool. I might put you in a 6 or an 8, that type of thing. But those are decisions, and approaches that I've gone and developed over the, I don't know how many years that I've been in this industry for now.
Debunking some of the myths, right, of the industry, do expensive shoes always mean better quality?
No.
Okay. So what is the biggest marketing gimmick in trail shoes that, doesn't really matter?
The fact that the brand, started off as this all singing and all dancing, and is the only, brand.
Yeah.
That's, the biggest thing at the moment. And once again, I prefer not to mention the brand because I think the brand is brilliant. But in South Africa, everyone thinks that, that brand is the be all and end all and the only trail running shoe in the world.
Yeah. And what's the best piece of advice you would give someone buying their first pair of trail shoes or shoes?
Let the guys, guide you based on what you're doing. 2, don't pigeonhole yourself into a distance. You may come in and say, I'm only going to run the Cape Town Marathon 21K trail run.
Yeah.
To pigeonhole yourself into, I'm only going to do 10 or 15Ks on trail, all right, is the wrong approach.
Yeah.
You go with the shoe that works for your body, with your biomechanical function, and your running stroke, or sporting and injury history. Yeah. So I'm only doing 5Ks. I want an entry-level shoe. Don't go that route. Because you might find, I'm running more now. Now I've got to buy a new shoe.
Yeah.
Or you go and buy an entry-level shoe and then it ends up giving you an injury.
Yeah.
Rather buy a shoe, regardless of distance, buy it that works for you and it's 100% correct. Be it road or trail, by the way.
And at the beginning, I asked what 2 words you would have on your sock. What would that be?
Be yourself.
Love it. Thank you very much. This was amazing.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you invite.
Subscribe to the Trail Chasers today and ensure that you never miss an episode. And if you know someone thinking about starting trail running, share this with them. It might be the nudge they need to join you.